The bakery smelled like nothing. Not yet. No fresh bread. No sweetness. Just dust. And silence. Daniel stood in the doorway. Keys in his hand. This place was all he had left. After everything fell apart. His job. His savings. His reputation. Gone. "Dad, is this ours?" his little daughter asked. Her voice soft. Hopeful. Daniel looked down at her. And forced a small smile. "Yeah," he said. "It's ours." The shop was old. Cracked walls. Broken shelves. An oven that looked like it hadn't worked in years. But to him, it wasn't broken. It was a chance. "I'm going to fix it," he said quietly. More to himself than anyone else. Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel worked non-stop. Cleaning. Repairing. Learning. Because he wasn't a baker. Not before this. But he had to become one. For her. His daughter sat in the corner most days. Drawing. Watching. Believing. Always believing. "You'll make the best bread, Dad," she said once. Daniel smiled. Because that belief was stronger than any doubt. The first batch burned. The second too hard. The third almost right. He didn't quit. Couldn't. Because quitting wasn't an option anymore. Then one morning, something changed. The smell. Warm. Soft. Real. Fresh bread filled the air. Daniel stood there. Holding it. Perfect. Finally. He laughed. For the first time in months. "Dad! It smells amazing," his daughter cheered. Customers came slowly. Then more. Word spread. Simple bread. Honest taste. Made with effort. Made with need. The bakery came alive. Not fancy. Not rich. But real. Then one day, the bell rang. The door opened. And everything stopped. A woman walked in. Elegant. Confident. Familiar. Too familiar. Daniel froze. Because he knew her. Of course he did. She was the one who fired him. The CEO. The reason he lost everything. She looked around the bakery. Calm. Observing. Then her eyes met his. And in that moment, neither of them spoke. Because the past had just walked back in. And this time, it wasn't going to stay silent. The bakery went quiet. Too quiet. Daniel didn't move. Neither did she. The CEO. Standing there. In a place she would never normally enter. Flour on the counter. Warm bread in the air. And the man she once dismissed. Right in front of her. "Daniel," she said. His name. Clear. Recognized. He nodded slightly. "Ma'am." Formal. Distant. Nothing like before. She stepped closer. He stayed where he was. Behind the counter. Like there was now a line. Between their worlds. "I didn't expect," she began. Then stopped. Because what could she say? That she never imagined he'd survive. That he'd succeed. That he'd rebuild. Her eyes moved around the bakery. Simple. But full. Alive. "You own this?" she asked. "Yes." One word. Strong. Earned. A small pause. Then. Why? The question slipped out. Not rude. Just honest. Because to her, this didn't make sense. Daniel looked at his daughter. Then back at her. Because I had nothing left, he said. And this was something. The answer landed. Heavy. Real. She noticed the little girl. Standing quietly nearby. Holding a piece of bread. Watching. Curious. Your daughter, the CEO asked. Daniel nodded. She's the reason. The girl smiled shyly. The CEO looked at her. And something softened. Just a little. You bake all this? She asked. Still trying to understand. Daniel gave a small nod. Every morning. She picked up a piece of bread. Carefully. Almost unsure. Then took a bite. Silence. A long one. Because the taste wasn't what she expected. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't perfection. It was warm. Honest. Real. She swallowed slowly. And for the first time, didn't have words ready. It's good, she said finally. Simple. But true. Daniel didn't react much. Just a slight nod. Because approval didn't mean what it used to. Not anymore. Another silence. Different now. Less tense. More aware. I heard what happened after, she said quietly. Daniel's expression didn't change. Most people did, he replied. No bitterness. But no warmth either. She looked down briefly. Then back at him. I made a mistake, she said. The words. Rare. Unexpected. I judged too quickly. Daniel stayed silent. Because apologies don't fix everything. I can offer you your job back, she continued. Better position. Higher pay. The bakery seemed to pause. Even the air. Waiting. Daniel looked around. At the oven. At the shelves. At his daughter. Then back at her. And slowly. He shook his head. No. One word. Final. The CEO blinked. Surprised. No, she repeated. I built this, Daniel said. Calm. Certain. I'm not leaving it. The answer. Firm. Unshaken. She studied him. Really studied him. And for the first time, she understood something. He didn't lose everything. He found something else. Something she didn't have. Peace. The little girl stepped forward. Do you want more bread? She asked innocently. The CEO looked at her. Then smiled slightly. Yes, she said. I do. And in that small moment, something shifted. Not power. Not control. But respect. Real respect. Because the man she once fired didn't just survive. He became something stronger. Someone she couldn't ignore anymore. The bakery felt warmer now. Not because of the oven. But because something had changed. The CEO stood quietly. Holding the bread. Looking at Daniel. Differently. Not as an employee. Not as a mistake. But as someone she misjudged. I understand, she said finally. And this time, she meant it. Daniel didn't respond immediately. Because understanding came too late sometimes. But still, it mattered. The little girl smiled. Dad makes everything better, she said proudly. Daniel looked at her. Softened. Because she was right. Not about the bread. About him. The CEO watched that moment. A father. A daughter. Something simple. Something powerful. Something she didn't have. You built this, from nothing, she said. Daniel shook his head slightly. Not nothing, he replied. I had her. He looked at his daughter. And that was enough. Silence. But this one was peaceful. The CEO placed the money on the counter. More than needed. Daniel noticed. And gently pushed some back. Just the price, he said. No charity. No favors. Just respect. She didn't argue. Because now, she understood the rules here. Different from hers. Better in some ways. Then let me ask you something, she said. Daniel waited. Would you consider supplying bread for my company events? Not a job offer. Not control. A partnership. Equal. Daniel paused. Thought. Looked at his daughter. She nodded excitedly. Say yes, Dad. He smiled slightly. Then looked back at the CEO. Yes. Simple. But meaningful. Because this time. He chose it. Not forced. Not desperate. Strong. Independent. The CEO extended her hand. Daniel looked at it. Then shook it. Not as a worker. But as an equal. And in that moment. Everything changed. Not the past. But the future. Weeks later. The bakery grew. More orders. More people. More life. And sometimes. A familiar black car stopped outside. The CEO stepping in. Not for business. But for bread. And maybe. A reminder. That losing everything. Doesn't mean the end. Sometimes. It's the beginning. Of something better.